Welcome to the Joyride podcast, where we explore the path to becoming your most authentic self. I'm your host, Rebecca Joy, a self-development coach, human design expert, spiritual enthusiast, and motivational speaker who's absolutely obsessed with personal growth and transformation. On this podcast, I'll be sharing my own journey and insights to help you activate your power, amplify your confidence, and become the most magnetic version of yourself. Each episode delivers actionable strategies, powerful energy shifts, and spiritual wisdom that you can immediately apply to break through any limitations and create lasting change. Whether you're seeking deeper self-understanding, professional growth, or spiritual connection, the Joyride gives you the tools to transform your potential into your new abundant reality. Welcome to the Joyride. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Joyride podcast. As always, like I always say, I'm just so happy to have you here with me for yet another episode. Tomorrow is Christmas Eve, and I'm recording this intro for a very, very special episode that is just so real, and it's so honest, and it's so raw, and I'm just so excited for you to listen to this episode, especially because we are literally like about a week away from entering a new year, and I just know that this episode is going to hit home for so many people. So my friend Jordyn was on the podcast. You will hear about our meeting later on in the episode, but Jordyn is a newer friend of mine. She has been in my life for literally less than 2 months. We have such a special connection and bond based off of so many different things, where we come from, just what we've navigated through in our own personal journeys, when we met, the timing that we met. It's a very serendipitous meeting. Jordyn is actually now living in Austin, Texas, which you will hear about later on in the episode, and we just so happened to cross paths right before she moved here, or right before she moved to Austin, but being here in Raleigh, North Carolina. So we have just been able to truly support one another on so many levels throughout both of our transitions. Me truly settling into this life in North Carolina, and for her transitioning out of North Carolina and moving into Austin, Texas. So, you know, it's one of those meetings in life where I just know wholeheartedly that God put this person in my life for a very specific reason, and I'm just beyond grateful to have her in my life, not just as a sounding board, but as a friend, as someone that I can truly confide in. And Jordyn is also a coach, so she just brings so much depth from her own personal experience and just her way of articulating her past experiences and making it so real. Like, she truly has helped me so much, which is kind of just like a bonus that you get. For me, at least, it's like I didn't just gain a friend, I also gained someone that I can, really go to for sound advice and insight. And she truly has helped me so much in so many different areas of my life, which you will hear about later on in this episode. So I want to end this here and just jump straight into the episode. But before we get there, I want to apologize for the audio. I do not know why the audio sounds so shitty on my end. It sounds great on her end. I have been testing out what type of audio I will be using when I have on guests, and for some reason, my mic just did not sound great with the audio. So I'm so sorry if it's just a little cringe to listen to me talk throughout this episode, but I promise you'll want to stick around for the entire episode because we get into some real shit that I know is going to help you, especially if you are in a similar position as us, moving back home with your parents, when you're in this position of your life where you're like, where the fuck do I go from here, and how do I go from here? That is what this episode is about. So sit back, enjoy, take this episode with you when you are walking on the treadmill at the gym, you're going for a walk, you're hanging out on the weekend. I promise you that if you listen to this episode before the end of the year, it is going to help you so much in 2026. So enjoy the episode.
Well,
Jordyn, welcome to the Joyride podcast. I'm so excited to have you here.
Thanks, Rebecca. I'm so excited to be here.
Jordyn is just like so smiley on the other end. And you guys, it's so crazy because we are swapped now. So Jordyn is actually in Austin, Texas, which, as you all know, I just came from Austin and I'm in Raleigh. So this episode is going to be so good. I have so many incredible topics to share. But Jordyn, welcome. I'm just so happy. Like selfishly, just so happy that we met, truly. Oh my gosh.
I am so happy that we met. And also for the people listening to this swap was that I had been in Raleigh since March of this year. And I was with my parents and figuring out life. I had come back from international travels for 3 months. And I was really out there just with my parents, basically solo, no one really around our age. And then I had met one friend very serendipitously, and then Rebecca was next. And I was like, wow, thank goodness that we met because we really needed that. And it was a huge transition time for me. So our conversations have just been next level. And I'm so excited to see where this conversation goes between us.
Yes. So Jordyn and I are newer friends, but it does not feel like that. At least to me, it does not feel like we've been only friends for what, a month and a half, if
Yeah,
even.
definitely does not feel that way.
Yeah, it just is the truest testament to when you meet people who are so much in alignment with you, not just who you are as a person, but I think with where you are at in your life, just things really do happen quickly. And we really did make the most out of our 2 weeks together, which is so crazy to say. So, before we get into today's episode, I want to give a little background and a little context as to how Jordyn and I actually met. So, I want to say maybe like back in it was either late September or October. Jordyn's mom was over at my house because Jordyn's parents are living in an apartment right now, but they're looking to move to a house. So they came over to my parents' house to look at the house, look at the neighborhood. So I'm talking to Jordyn's mom, who has this like amazing, super loud, thick New York accent. And I'm just loving it because my best friend Casey is from New York and she's just all of the amazing New York things and Jewish. So she's telling me about her. She's telling me that she has this daughter. It gets brought up, of course, that I just moved out of Austin after living there for 6 years. And she's like, oh my gosh, my daughter Jordyn is moving to Austin. And I'm like, no way, that's crazy. So we start talking about Austin, and then she asks what I do. And I say, I'm a life coach. And she says, oh my gosh, like that is crazy because my daughter is also in the coaching space and she's looking to get more involved. And I'm like, okay, this is kind of trippy. So of course she's like, here's her number, text her. What do? I don't text her. Not because I didn't want to, but just like I have found sometimes when my mom's friends, they're telling me about their daughters, and you just like, you never really know what's up. I'm like, is this girl going to think I'm crazy? Is this girl going to be like, who is this girl? Did her mom give her context? So, anyways, long story short, we all end up going to dinner, and Jordyn and I, just like within seconds, I'm like, yep, 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 the energy's there. So, that's a little background.
Yes. And it's funny when you meet people who are really intuitive, who just you lock in and you get it. There's always like some sort of usually I feel like it's astrology that gets brought up in some
Totally.
way, in some variation, something about either like something super profound in the world comes up or something about your signs. There's always something where you're just like, okay, if this girl can meet me at that level, that's where you've already locked in. We got it there, and that's kind of what happened between you and I immediately. And then our moms were just like off to the side and chatting about their own stuff, and we were like, yeah, you guys aren't here anymore.
Yeah, we were just totally having our own side conversation. And something that I had mentioned to my mom beforehand, we'll get into this, but my first month here, it was just hard. Like, I was so sensitive, I was so emotional. There just was so much coming up to the surface. And I was thinking to myself, it's a bummer that my parents don't get to really see me like shine and in my light. And truly being there with you was maybe the first time since I'd been here
which had a few months had already passed where I was like, oh my God, like I get to like be Rebecca and I get to even just me talking about my experience in Austin and me being a coach and like speaking and all this stuff. I'm like, oh my gosh, yes, I can not just exhale, but like this is my true essence.
Mhm.
And I was asking my mom later, I'm like, did you understand what Jordyn and I were talking about? Because we just obviously have our own, like, if you know, you know. And if you don't know, you don't know. Sorry. You don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, actually, I've even I haven't been posting so recently, but I did post on TikTok for like 2 years. So if anyone needs some advice and wants to go there, they absolutely can. But I have created videos that are essentially around, hey, go listen to my videos. If you understand what I'm talking about, you are most likely extremely emotionally intelligent and intuitive. And that's not to toot my own horn. It's literally to be said that if you understand these things, I don't want you to feel crazy because there is this sort of like other way of, I don't know if it's like viewing the world or I don't know. There's just something about it where you see the world from a very energetic, emotional type of space. And at least for me, which of course I know we'll get into more, that it was just always something of learning that side of me or just feeling always sensitive or learning about mindsets that implementing that into my life and really letting that shine was dimmed for sure. And so that's, I know where we relate to because it's not necessarily that people are trying to dim it. Like, of course, like to your point, our parents maybe just don't get it. And
Hmm.
that happens a lot of the time. It's more to just validate, though, when you meet people in this type of context, like you and I did, where you feel seen, you feel heard, you get it. And that's just the most beautiful feeling because everyone just wants to know that they're not crazy and that somebody else will understand them, point blank. So that was a great intro for us to have right off the bat.
Totally. And I will never forget the first time that we hung out without our moms, obviously,
Yeah.
when we were
It
sitting
sounds like
out.
we're dating.
You guys, we kind of were. We hung out
It's
besides
kind of friend
dinner.
dating. Friend
Yeah,
dating.
we hung out a total of 4 times in less than 2 weeks, which is honestly kind of a lot. Like
Yeah.
whether friends dating, I mean, nowadays everyone's so busy, you know, of course, everyone is living their own lives. But we were just like, there was a synergy there. And I'm so happy that it was reciprocal because we were just like, let's make the most of the time that we have because it was so fleeting. I mean, it was such a bummer for me because I'm like, oh my God, like I met this girl and she could have been like my bestie girl that I would have had here, but obviously so exciting because you were just about to move to Austin. But to that point, I remember you telling me, obviously I'm going to have you get into this, but like living in New York for 5 years and being immersed in a totally different world, and then you totally deep diving into spirituality, mindset, personal development, all these things. You said something to me like, it's so nice to not feel like I'm crazy. And living in Austin for 6 years, I wasn't doing this work for 6 years, but the work that I have done for my entire life around all of these topics, astrology, learning human design, spirituality, just really getting to know myself and peeling the layers of the onion back. I never personally felt like I was crazy. It was more like this knowing. But I found it really interesting to meet people who are so in tune and are so deeply intuitive because whether it's a client, a friend, just like they'll tell me things and maybe they're immersed in the 9 to 5 world and they're like, I hope this doesn't sound crazy. And I'm like, nothing that you're saying is crazy. But so many people who are in the same position of maybe being now exposed to their gifts or just really getting to know themselves at a deeper level truly think, oh my gosh, am I crazy? And it was cool for me because we went over Jordyn's human design chart. She's a 6'3", I'm a 6'2". Like there's something about the two energy where it's just so the six energy is very like this innate wisdom, but two is like just the natural and it's like I don't even know how I got to become so good at this. I just am. Whereas the three in both of our profiles because of the six energy and you being the 6'3", the three is like I have to go out and live and I have to extract what I'm getting from these real life experiences in order to learn about myself. So it's just been a cool perspective for me on the other side to be like, oh my gosh, there are so many people out there in the world who obviously now you know that you're not crazy, but so many people think that they're crazy. I'm like, no, you're just aware and you're awake and you're intuitive, and that is a good thing.
Yeah, for sure. Because even then, now where it's like meeting you and getting to talk off the deep end about this stuff, it's then even one interaction with one person allows it to almost expedite the process to feel that there is that sense of validation and just being able to sink into all of that because I had all of these instances throughout my whole life where I didn't have that match. And, I think that was on purpose and meant to be because I was supposed to trial and error and live my life and find out all of these things behind the scenes for myself. But now getting to come to a place like Austin too, where it is maybe more just, I guess, the norm or whatever it is that has really helped me have that last layer of feeling so much more comfortable because to me it was very much it's I think a lot to do with like how I've been built, human design, astrology. They're definitely the more like in the ether types of things that resonate to how my life path has kind of gone. And then at the same time, it kind of coincided too with even just point blank physical things of being in Austin now versus being in New York my whole life. Because also the context too, well, Rebecca mentioned of it being that my mom is from New York. We're all from New York. And I then did live there for 5 years after college. And just having all of that time in a very hustle and bustle, logic driven, you need to get the things, do the things, having a corporate career, all of that, like that really just was the shaping of such a different person who I was in the past. And I don't know, just being able to come here and have that different perspective is really, really interesting. And to me was really like more of a click of a finalization. But you're always doing the work, but a finalization in some way of, oh yeah, this is who I am, and this is a huge part of who I am. And I am really here to just like make that more normal and meet even more people who can match that energy.
Totally. And I have said this many times on the podcast how special and magical of a place Austin is. And I truly believe with every fiber of my being that so many people are brought to Austin on purpose, not just to experience this beautiful city life because it is a city. And yes, it has the greenery and it does give off this very homey feel and it's not so cutthroat like a New York or a LA. But I believe that if you are drawn to or not to Miami, here I am thinking about my own self. If you are drawn to Austin, it's because you are meant to be cracked open in some type of spiritual way. And even in that first, date night of us two sitting down and chatting, you were telling me, meeting your friend Sarah, who you've now connected me to, and meeting me, you're like, oh my gosh, these people exist. And I'm like, yeah, girl, because we're mirroring your gifts, your energy. Yes, these people exist. And that's why I have shared this with Jordyn so many times, but I was so excited for her to move to Austin because I'm like, oh my God, Austin is going to crack you open because not to say that you're going to have the same experience as me, obviously, because everyone's journey is so different, but I just so deeply believe that like people who have this very specific essence and energy about them, especially like intuitives, energy healers, are brought to Austin for that specific reason. And everything else is just a bonus. Like, yes, there are amazing restaurants and it's a big foodie scene and there are so many people who love health and wellness, but there's something about just the spirituality about it and just how I think it just has been so cool to like even hear about your own journey and just naturally these puzzle pieces you've kind of like picked up along the way. You're like, oh, this exists. Oh, these people exist. Oh my gosh, this place exists. And now it's all coming together.
Yeah, 100%. And I think there's something again to that point of it just being that, there is that attraction, there is that sense of normalization here of spirituality. And I really, really needed that because I didn't have that for most of my life. And at the same time, I think something that's really interesting a lot too is I think sometimes what happens in this spirituality space, it then becomes so like, okay, I need to do my grounding practices and meditate and my rituals, and it becomes like your whole life. But for me, something that's still so relevant is that like the New York piece is always going to be there. I do have a lot of that drive, masculine energy, wanting to go after things and effort. And even like when it comes to the food scene, or just, I don't know, just even being like, I want to experience life, and sometimes we get so like in the clouds about things, and I needed that confirmation that that was okay. And at the same time, we've talked about this too. I have 5 planets in Capricorn. I'm very earthy, have a lot of logic, pattern driven things. And I think that having both sides is still really interesting. Like I talk a lot about having that sense of balance, whether you want to call it feminine energy versus masculine energy, or I don't know, whatever you want to call it. I just think that there is that sense of I'm so happy to be here and get that groove of knowing that the spirituality is here, that I can lean into it. And I think I really need to even more a lot of the times. And at the same time, knowing like I'll never lose the New York, hustle, masculine energy, like that's still going to be there. And it's up to me to choose really in each moment where am I able to flex myself, and just being overall like a multifaceted human who has so many sides and layers to her. And I think more women just also need to really like know that and feel comfortable in that too.
Yes. To me, like Austin gives off such Austin is very eclectic, but it really is whatever you want to make it. And from the moment that I truly, established roots in Austin, I'm like, oh, if you want to be granola and earthy, you can be granola and earthy. If you want to be a bougie bad bitch in Austin, you can be that. If you want to be a spiritual
Right.
person, you can be. If you want to be, which is something that my Gemini moon just like thrives off of variety. And so people would come to visit and they would ask me about going out and doing this. And I'm like, yeah, so I don't do that kind of stuff. But if you want to come to a sound bath or you want to go take a hot Pilates class, like that's my vibe. But I
Mhm.
think it's so great that you again, the beauty about moving in your 20s is that you get certain things from different places and you clearly establish such a beautiful foundation for yourself in New York, which I want to talk a little bit more about, but also having that awareness to now start a whole new, not even chapter in your story, but a whole new book, and to say, like, okay, yes, I'm here because there are pieces and parts of me that I know are meant to come alive more, but also not being so obsessed with, yes, like everything has to be about like spirituality and personal development. Cause I did get really sucked into that. And it's one of the things that I think I was like, after I moved out of Austin, I'm like, oh my God, this place can like really trap you because Austin has such an abundance of all of these things, the saunas and the cold plunges and the Pilates and the sound baths, it's like it's very, very easy to get so wrapped up in that, coming from a girl who did a lot of wellness work over the years and spent a lot of fucking money trying to quote unquote heal myself, which again is a beautiful thing because in Austin you have access to so many incredible things that most cities don't. But I was so warped and wrapped up in that world where I was like, oh my God, maybe I just like needed to understand my familial patterns that I never dealt with in my 20s. Maybe you know what I'm saying? Like all these things that have now come to the surface for me as I've transitioned out of Austin. But just to go in with that knowing of like, I'm here not to get so lost in the becoming. I'm here to experience life truly, and I want to experience it all. It's so
Yeah. 100%. Yeah. And one, to your point of Austin, as you were saying that, I was like, oh, the reason I really was attracted to coming here was definitely because of that sense of balance. Like to me, this has so much of the spirituality, and maybe at its core, it has the equal spirituality, equal going out or businesses and working and all of that. I think it really does. It's just funny to me because New York has like next to nothing of that. Um, but I do think that's a very good point and has brought me here. But also, I do think it's really interesting that a lot of people do get stuck into spirituality in a lot of those ways because I think maybe part of almost my skepticism that I think I grew up with in this world. Like, I didn't grow up very spiritual or anything in that regard. So I think I always had this level of skepticism that actually has grounded me in a lot of ways, where I was like, I don't ever want to become so tied to something externally, even if it's like a practice or a ritual, but also just I feel that even for me, a lot of the spirituality came through from a very um like knowledge, logical education type of direction, where if for me started when I was very much like I want to read this health self-help book, listen to this podcast, and I kept wanting to gather this information. And I think that I always needed to hear things from several different angles to be able to then actually make that my belief or my core. And I would be super observant as I was actually walking around and understand, like starting to put together my philosophies of how the world works and what are my true beliefs. And so I think because I came in from that perspective, more than it trying to be maybe like, for you of, oh, like this is so healing going to a sound bath meditation or all these things. I guess mine just came in from a different angle because I was even like scared to be the person who meditated. I was like judged for being the person who, would journal or whatever. So I think for me, I kind of always liked that I had that level of skepticism, even though, that judgment was there. It hurt in that way for sure. But I think just being able to now help people in knowing, like, I think you and I are both at a similar place now where it's like, no matter what angle we've come into this from, there's always this level, or hopefully for people, I know for us, where it's kind of like, you know what? We've done a lot of shit at this point. Like, when is it going to be enough? And you always want to then maintain your practices just because, I mean, always in the sense of, I mean, that you might want to. Like, I absolutely love journaling and I meditate a lot and go to yoga or Pilates. Like, there are all these things that are regular practices for me. But eventually it's like, okay, I want to experience the world and let it be fun because otherwise, what is all of this work really meant for? And I think it's everyone's own individual journey to really start to craft that pivot for themselves. And that's also part of the spiritual practice. Like that knowledge eventually has to become the embodiment and being able to really own that for yourself because then otherwise, what's the point?
Your Sag sun is really showing. Can you tell? Jordyn is a Sagittarius sun, a Capricorn moon, and a Scorpio rising.
I'm like, my Sagittarius almost never comes out. I feel it's very, I mean, I could be vibrant and like, I mean, definitely the traveler and philosophical person, but the Scorpio rising really just makes the depth, and the Capricorn really has the earth.
Well, when I first met you, Jordyn was like just this ball of ray and sunshine. And I'm like, oh, I just like see so clearly her Sagittarius energy. But the more obviously that like we've deepened our friendship, I'm like, oh,
Yeah,
yes,
yeah.
yes, very much so, Scorpio rising. But just like your take on the world, I think that's such a beautiful, healthy perspective. And again, like I see that Sagittarius energy so clearly. You're like, okay, I want to formulate my own perspective of the world, but I also want to be free in my knowing that, like, okay, I have these practices that ground me and I love self-development. And yes, I'm here to shed some shit, but at the same time, like, I don't want anything to hold me back, which for me, like my Virgo sun, I'm like, I need my health, I need my wellness. And that's
Yep.
why it was such a beautiful awakening for me to then be out of it and to see how not like I was corrupted by any means, because truly I got to work with the most incredible practitioners and healers, but I just knew for me in leaving Austin, I'm like, I have to leave this place because I've gotten what I've needed from this place. And
Yep.
if I'm here any longer, I'm just going to continue to go down the same spiral. So, in
Mhm.
saying that, I want to take it back a little bit and give some context as to where Jordyn was 5 years ago. So, we know that you were in New York. What happened after New York? And then you were brought to Raleigh because I want to
Mhm.
really go into the depths of both of our journeys in being here and what it's taught us, especially around being with family and that transition. But I first want to let people know where you came from.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, we can definitely start it back to when I graduated college. And if you want me to add color before then, we absolutely can. But I think that's helpful because that's when I then moved to New York. I was there for 5 years. And basically, to sum up that time for the sake of time, kind of coincides with the narrative that has already existed in our conversation of I worked at an influencer marketing agency, so was very much in the 9 to 5 era. I did work remotely for a lot of it. The pandemic happened during that, and was at a startup that escalated very quickly. I had like 6 different roles while I was at the company, very much ambitious, wanting to get promoted, wanting to really also figure out where I wanted my career to go. So I was trying on all these different hats. And all of that was basically equally coincided with behind the scenes. I like to say it was basically my second job was doing my own self-development. So it was again reading, listening, absorbing all of this knowledge, but then implementing practices, figuring out what I liked and what I didn't like. Um, and just really like learning about the world. And I did feel that this was such a solo thing that I did behind the scenes where almost nobody knew that it was happening. I became the friend to the points of what I said before of like, oh, she's going to meditate or journal. And I was that like wellnessy type of girl. But to me, it was still even like, it wasn't a huge part, like it was, okay, maybe it was, but it was very much I had both of these sides to me, and I didn't really know what this knowledge set was going to bring. But I knew for me that I had this level of something not being right, having anxiety, going to therapy, just nothing that felt so crazy. But for context of anyone who's listening, if they really associate with being like the sensitive, hyper vigilant, hyper independent, like girl boss, just trying to go like very confident in some ways, but also just like, why is something deeply not right internally? That was kind of what I was trying to figure out. And so loved my job for that time. But then eventually, actually, it really just was serendipitous that I left. It was kind of my time to leave my job. And once I did, I was like, okay, I'm going to finish out my New York City lease and took the time to plan. And I was like, I want to travel for 3 months. I had really wanted to go to Australia for a while. And I sort of maybe had this hunch or knowing that I eventually in my 20s wanted to do a big trip. So basically, just gathered it all together, had a flight to Australia for a month, and was like, let's see where it goes. So I had 3 months of traveling, what ended up being to Australia, Bali, and Singapore. And then that now brings us to March of this year when I came to Raleigh. And I ended up being with my parents for, I think, what was like 9 months, which is wild. And for that context, too, there were signs that were leading me to Austin, but I also I really didn't know where I was going to live. Like, it's one of those things more in hindsight, like it makes sense and it trickled into knowing over time, but it was also an active I think it was still an active choice for me. I never would have thought that I would live in Texas. So that now brings us to here.
Girl, same. If you had asked me, I guess 6 years ago, where are you gonna move? I would have never, ever said Texas, but Austin is not Texas. It's
Right.
just
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
it is because, it's just so funny to me how Texans think that Texas is truly the best place on this planet. I'm like, guys, we
They're
need to get
proud.
out. They're very proud. I'm like,
They're
guys,
proud.
we need to get out more. HEB is not that great. Let's relax. Like, there just are so many things, but I love it. But Austin is such a magical place. Okay, so you're in Raleigh. It's March. Did you get here and were you thinking, I'm ready to already get the heck out of here? Or did you come here and you're like, okay, cool, let me just chill for a second? Like, what was the vibe when you landed here after your 3 months of solo travel?
Yeah, there was this sense before I traveled back home that I had been doing this work long enough to know that I was likely going to come back and kind of crash. I I had that knowing. I know enough of just when you, not even because I was on a high from traveling, or even because I was like, I don't know what to do with my life. It just really was actually like an energetic drop. There was nothing that I was actually scared about. It really was just like, oh, okay. Yep, I'm with my parents now, and this is just, I hope that it's not that long kind of thing. And I dragged out for a long time, feeling like, okay, I need to get out of here. I need to get out of here. I need to get out of here. That I didn't just let myself sit and plant. And it's like, you could tell yourself all you want. Like, I did this every single day of like, it's meant to be that I'm here. Like, there's going to be something that, needs my attention. I'm going to heal something while I'm here. Something needs to get figured out while I'm here. But none of that was soothing anything for me to get out of there any quicker. So, like, the first thing I did eventually was book Pilates because I was like, okay, I should at least have a Pilates studio or like do something that's not dramatically expensive and just allow myself to do it for my sense of happiness. And that was like the first thing that actually did catapult me into embracing life there more, eventually meeting friends, then you, and like all of that. Um, but it was, yeah, we didn't embrace it for a moment. So there was a lot of just hitting my head against a wall for the first few months, for sure. Oh yeah.
Same, same as you know.
Yeah.
I'm so happy that we're able to have this conversation because it's something that I didn't feel not like I overshare a lot and I love to share what I'm moving through, my process of how I'm moving through things, but I remember having a conversation with someone else who, ironically, she's a Sagittarius sun too, and did like a whole Bali thing for
Mhm.
way longer than you. And
Yep.
she had moved in with her parents before this trip and is now actually back in with her parents. But I remember kind of, without really saying it, kind of saying like, oh, that was going to be my next move before I move elsewhere.
Mhm.
But I felt so deeply embarrassed and I felt so just like, oh my God, like I'm gonna be a 30-year-old woman living at home with my parents.
Yep.
How in the fuck is that gonna look to the rest of the world? I'm out here trying to coach other people on how to live their best life, yet I'm over here, oh my God, in a crappy ass financial situation, freaking the fuck out about how am I gonna do this?
Mhm.
So I just think having this conversation from two people who are very strong-willed people and like meeting you, I just know that you are going to be not like you're not already successful, but successful in ways that don't have to do with money, right? Like it's very easy to say like, oh, she's going to be successful, but like I see how much of a bright light you are and how much the world needs it, and I see that in myself as well.
Mhm.
So, in being here, I definitely was in that same position for a few months. And meeting Jordyn, she really, really helped me because she was like, you need to understand that you are here. And this was something that I know that I was praying for a very long time. I'm like, I just want to wake up on my 30th birthday and feel peace and a beautiful home and feel safe. And I truly have gotten so many things that I've prayed for: family time, slowness, steadiness, steadfastness. But with that, I've also had these like inner jolts within me, also because I'm sure you can relate to this as well, being in New York, obviously in different ways, but like I've done so many incredible things, not just within my career, but as a woman and as a human being and as an independent individual. It was very hard for me the first few months being here and having these moments of like, I just need to get the fuck out of here because I'm not this person that I know that I can be. And it just was so effing hard. And so in meeting you, and this is something that I want us to share more about, like what exactly did you do besides, going to the Pilates studio? Because like I have done that too. Like, okay, I'm getting on ClassPass. I'm doing these things. I think it's very easy, especially when you're living at home with your parents. And my parents are very frugal. They are typical Jewish parents. They're like, if you're living at home and you want to move to this place, why aren't you saving every dollar that you make and this and that? And I have realized about myself that I would be fucking miserable if I was just in Raleigh, North Carolina. Not even Raleigh. I'm in Cary, you guys. Okay, Raleigh's like the bigger city. Cary is a suburb. Okay,
We are really in the suburbs.
really, really in it. And I've realized being here, yeah, I am a city girly. Like I need to be immersed in the energy. I need to like feel a pulse. There's no pulse here. So yes, I have my podcast and my Substack and I can share on Instagram, but it's like I have learned about myself. I have to immerse myself for wherever I'm at because yes, I know that I'm meant to be here. So I want to know, like, what exactly did you do to help you feel a sense of I'm grounded. I'm feeling at peace with where I'm at, even though for the first few months you were like, I'm banging my head against the wall and I need to get out of here.
Yeah. I think it kind of is that, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. And I was for a long time really like trying to put more pieces together of my business. And for context, it was to be more of a coach and figure out if I wanted to get clients one-on-one or, stick with courses online, whatever it really was. And eventually I had some cracks like in that where I was just like, do I explore other things? And I was like, I don't want to be the person who gives this up because I think a lot of the, spiritual mindset is like the sticking to it, positivity, knowing that I have all of this knowledge and clearly I can be putting it to good use. But I think I got stuck in the fact of being at this point where it has to happen right now. And then it was maybe the consideration of, well, maybe it doesn't have to be, which is obviously a shock to the system because I was like, well, I left my job and was pursuing this for what was then like a year and a half. And now what? That was probably part of it, like even just having those types of conversations with myself. But I also think that another layer for me was even I had always thought about when I go home, kind of to that point of why am I here? I knew that there was probably something that needed to be healed still between me and my parents in some way. And it kind of did coincide where, like, my dad and I are very similar, and we could talk about a lot of this. He doesn't have as much the spiritual side of things, but he gets it from like we could have very in-depth types of conversations. If I go too into the clouds, he's like, "Okay, you need to come down to earth, please." But I think that's something that was interesting was still, yeah, they weren't as much, they've always supported me and loved me and are like, you, we trust you kind of thing, but they've always had this sense of worry when I left my corporate job, again, to the money standpoint of like, it's always been this thing that, money is the sense of safety, equals each other. And I think that then there was this profound moment that I was, first of all, so much crying, have to make that very clear here. So much
Retweet.
releasing, so much releasing of being like to the point where you're just like, how the fuck is this still happening? And you have to get so freaking mad at yourself to just have a like I've had screaming mental breakdowns. And you know what? Then also even getting that moment where it's like my mom was able to comfort me and seeing that side of her and having those colors come through and all of that. But to the point of with my dad, we just then ended up having a very he had one perspective on something and I realized, oh, I've held this perspective about money and my job and all of this for so long that I actually kind of lost it at him. And to the point where even our relationship like got weird for like, I mean, like a day, like very short, but like I've never had that happen with him because we've always gotten each other. And I was like, oh, I needed to energetically like cut that cord of that belief system that I had from my parents. I would have never thought that back in March, that would be something that I needed to go through and all of that. So I think it's kind of like to summarize on that standpoint, being able to understand your surroundings of like, why might I be here? Like, what might be the context of, especially if you're going back with your parents, like, what belief system maybe do they hold that I need to kind of start to second guess because it's probably outdated and doesn't help me get to where I want to go next. And then also being able to kind of like lose it and be like, you know what? No spiritual practice is actually going to be able to do this right now. Like, I just need to scream in the car, get the emotions out, feel like, especially again, sense of home and safety with your parents of where, if hopefully, if that, for me, I felt that way, but also could be in the car, of it being safe enough to like let those emotions out and just kind of know like this is a chapter of we got to get rid of some stuff from more recent past childhood, whatever it really is for you. I think like that kind of all of that sort of coincided for me of how I got through it. It's like acting as if in real life, like a Pilates class or starting to meet friends and whatever. But I truly believe like that gunk that I was able to get out was also what allowed me to attract in friends who were ready to match my intuitive energy at the same time.
100%. I believe on the 3D physical level, people can look at women or just anyone who makes the decision to move back in with their parents. Oh, it must be a money thing or this or that. Like, yes, maybe on the surface it is. Maybe you just need a safe place to land because you don't know where the heck you're being shipped off to next. But there's so much depth under that we have both experienced, understanding what are these outdated patterns that I'm still operating from. Like, I knew deep down in my gut, had I just moved to Miami after Austin, one, I would have, my soul would have liked it because I know that I'm meant to be there. But on like the most let's get so fucking for real level, my nervous system would have not been able to handle it because where I'm at right now, the work that I have done, the work that you have done is what gets you to that next place, is what gets you to beginning that not new chapter of your story, but starting an entirely new book. And I can attest to everything that you mentioned about the screaming, the crying. I mean, oh my God, Jordyn, there were so many instances where I was like, can I just like not fucking cry for once? It was just like so many tears. Everything was so sensitive. But so much of what I didn't realize was me just really rooting into what this season is for me and understanding that, yes, I've been able to be maybe a different person living in this city. And I'm so grateful that we both have had the opportunity to live in these big cities and like that's where you are now and that's where I'm headed, and knowing that like, okay, I can create this life where I get to be this version of Jordyn, this version of Rebecca. But understanding that living with your parents, there's clearly some shit there that needs to be resolved and you just can't glaze over it. Like, I have learned so much about myself. I've learned so much about how I was operating, like, truly from a subconscious level. And I will say that this has come through because of the work that I have chosen to do here. I will be very straightforward and say, just because you decide to move back home with your parents, it's not like, okay, cool, I did the thing, checked it off the list, I moved back home with my parents, I saved this money, now I'm gonna like manifest and create my dream life. Like, personally, that's never how my journey has looked. Like, I actually have to go inwards and do the deep, deep, deep,
Oh
like,
yeah.
it's giving Scorpio vibes, right? Like, we need to
Yes.
go so fucking deep in the trenches.
Yeah.
That is what I've done here. And I've had to understand that, like, Rebecca, at her highest version, knows that she will still be able to live this life where she's living in this beautiful, magical city and she's with her partner and she's doing the things that she loves. And I don't have to drive fucking 30 minutes to go to a Pilates class because I don't want to do that. But you know what? For the time being, I'm going to do it while I'm here because you're here for a reason. And you can't distract yourself from the work because you will be here so much longer.
Yeah. And I just am a true believer at the end of the day that if you're doing the work at all, and I remember even being like, okay, what does that mean? Like, I mean,
Mm-hmm.
if you journal at all, if you sit in silence for 2 minutes, like every few days, if you see a therapist and you actually like lean into it, you're not just trying to like fuck around, whatever. Sorry for a different time of the differences, whatever. But if you do anything in this regard, you, I just am a believer that like it will work out for you.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I would love to feel that way about everybody, but I genuinely think that this world of unblocking wounds or emotions, healing, all of that, it's just such an integral piece of life, I believe, and allows for the space for the good shit to come in. And you have to, of course, like, do things and allow it to come through and whatever. But I don't know. I think that there's just that sense of hope. And really, I'm starting to see that even in my life. Like, I would have never thought that I would even be experiencing some, like, coming to Austin or like having a boyfriend now or just meeting people or even just being okay with the fact that I don't really know where my career is going, like that's crazy in and of itself too to me. Like I was always very on a straight and narrow type of path, but even allowing more of ambiguity and alignment and spirituality, like just all this stuff. I was doing this work being like, where the hell is this all going? For so long. And I would see glimmers of it throughout all of this, regardless of how bad it was. But I was just like, okay, universe, like, when are you gonna actually give me the good shit? Like,
Mm-hmm.
when is this really all gonna come together? Like, you're always kind of like, okay, where's the job? Where's the money? Where's the boy? Like, all this stuff. And I'm just sort of like, whoa. It's gotta happen. You have the attention there. That's why I'm so excited for you too, because it's just kind of like this knowing of like you're gonna go, whether it's, I mean, we think it's gonna be Miami. It's feeling that way. We're
It
gonna
will
put that
be.
out there.
Mm-hmm.
It will be. We're
Mm-hmm.
sinking into it. Love. But like knowing, I think regardless, just traveling and shifting your energy into a different place. Like to me, picking Austin was like the first step for me. And I think that that kind of feels like where it's at for you too, that then you're just going to be like in that new book, like you were saying, of like
Yes.
that's where it's going to be. And it's just that sense of hope. I don't know. Like I've been doing this for I think like 8 years now. And I'm like, well, could have been nice if it was one, you know?
Coulda, shoulda,
Could have
woulda.
been nice.
Could have been
But
nice.
like, nope, had to really figure all this out to get me here now. It's not to say I'm at like a destination either by any means, but there does feel like a big, big, big shift. Maybe it's also the numerology, but
Yeah. It's
regardless of what it is, it's just got to work out. It always,
totally.
you're doing the work,
Yeah.
and that's that.
There are two points that I want to expand on that are coming up for me. One
Let's do it.
is this knowing that this is one of the biggest takeaways that I've gotten through this season of my life living with my parents in suburbia is that you just can't skip the steps. And I think a lot of
Yeah.
people,
Hmm.
will take that as sacrifice, which if you want to see that as sacrifice, totally take it like that. I have this interesting belief about sacrifice. I don't believe that like your life needs to be so hard and you have to sacrifice all these things. I'm like, no, there's alignment and there's joy in everything, right?
Uh,
But you can't skip the steps. Like I know that maybe in one version of my life, maybe I would have skipped a step and moved straight to Miami, but I would have been in total like
yeah.
it would have been so chaotic. And I'm so grateful that I was brought here because I know that's where I'm going. Like it's
Hmm.
very clear to me. I've done so much work. I've done so much debunking, unblocking, all of the things that I've had to do in order to get me there. So that's the first thing. You just can't skip the steps, even if you really fucking want to. And it's so uncomfortable. Like nothing about being here. Yes, it's been really nice in a lot of ways to have this slow time to be with my parents. But I've also learned in being here that this is just not enough for me. I know that we've talked about that a lot.
Yep.
And I was very curious when I moved here, would that change for me? Because I've got friends who are, living physically close to their parents and they see them all the time and they're doing this stuff. And I've realized in being here that may not be my story because I am so fundamentally different than my family and than my parents. But also my second point that I want to share upon is it's such a different feeling when you were living by yourself or living with roommates or living in a city where you can do whatever the fuck you want and vouching for yourself. When you're living with your parents under their roof, the connection that I have with myself and vouching for myself and understanding what are Rebecca's personal boundaries, whether that be around my parents, around other family members that I have here, spending time with them, working on my own stuff. It's this new level of connection that I thought that I had maybe experienced living in Austin, but it's so different here because I'm like I truly have kind of had to relearn like, okay, what does it mean to be my number one fan? What does it mean to be my number one best friend? What does it mean to be my number one supporter and have this unwavering sense of belief and hope and faith in myself because my parents are on my ass like, how are you going to get there? How are you going to do it? How are you going to do this? But you don't have this. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm sure you've experienced that too.
Oh yeah.
This, I have had to learn how to be so fucking down bad for myself. And now that my parents are currently on a cruise, so they're not in the house, and I feel very free in saying this, I'm like, yes, bitch, we are going to get there. And in saying that, I don't mean like it's all on me, it's me against the world, because that used to be me. And I've learned in being here to be more dependent on not just people, but learning how to trust in the universe and learning how to receive. But yeah, strengthening that muscle of like Jordyn's got Jordyn, and whatever Jordyn wants, Jordyn can get that.
Yeah. Yeah. And even combining your 2 points, I am kind of a believer that when you have those moments where you're kind of pulled away from your sort of world in a way, whether it's you get a time by yourself completely, or you're with your parents, or whatever it is that kind of like takes you away, those I have found are the essential times to extra not skip the steps, if anything, whatever we want to call the steps, whatever it is, for me especially, it's a lot of like the unblocking or boundaries or sticking up for yourself, like whatever it really is of some sort of maybe lesson that you're learning and needing to dive into it and really do that work for yourself. Like, I think those things really coincide because it's kind of that you go through this hibernation moment to really go inward and let that focus, and you're almost kind of like needing to stitch out some sort of discovery of something within yourself that's helping to prepare you for the next layer of your life, because then when you're in that next place, you're going to want to like benefit from it and have the fruits of your labor shine. So this is the moment to really make sure that this version of Rebecca, this version of Jordyn, whoever you are, like you're actually prepared for that. And I think sometimes people then, to your earlier point, even, it's like, well, what's this 30-year-old doing going home or blah, blah, blah. And I mean, one, to be able to have the courage to really do it in the first place, one. Two, then also be like, all right, I know that there's going to be people who think XYZ way about it, and I'm still going to do that anyway. I mean, that's also another level of bravery, courage, whatever you want to call it. And that's how you actually then benefit from it, though, because you're going down this quote unquote maybe unconventional path, but you're listening to yourself. And I sometimes think we also don't give ourselves enough grace for that in and of
Hmm.
itself, but that it really is like serving such a huge purpose that it's just kind of crazy that the rest of the world, I guess, doesn't really operate from this capacity in a normalized type of way, because it does make sense when you really do think it through. Like you need that season of the winter, let's just call it, to then be able to bloom and blossom in the future. Like it's nature, you know?
Yeah. Well,
So
we are
yeah,
nature.
we
We
are
are
nature.
nature. We operate the same. And yeah, like just connecting all the dots between my points, your points, not skipping the steps. I knew for myself intuitively like this moment was gonna come.
Yeah.
And I knew that I couldn't skip over it. And I can already see not just the light at the end of the tunnel, but I can already put myself in the position that comes after this. And I'm like, I am such a check it off the to-do list person, but intentionally check it off the to-do list. Like, okay, lived with my parents, had that very uncomfortable stage of my life. Check, never fucking doing that again. Like this will never happen
Never.
again. Never, never, like not like I ever thought that it would, but like the financial position that I was in, that will never happen again. Living with my parents, having to go through this, all the
Right.
unblocking, everything that's come with that will never happen again.
Yep.
And I have learned, yes, what I mentioned previously about vouching for myself, standing up for myself, believing in myself. But what you said about preparation is so dang true because this has been so clear to me. I'm living with my parents now, and this may be a little bit different with your situation, but my parents are both retired. So they're 5 years away from 70. So I'm living with my parents at a totally different stage of life. They
Mhm.
don't need to get up at the ass crack of dawn to go do things with their life. I mean, my mom has got a schedule. She's booked and busy. She's got her classes. She's got her friends. But it's been interesting to be here to understand it's very easy for me being a Cancer rising. I'm super sensitive to environments. I've got an open G center. I'm just like, I can very much so amplify the energy of the environment. So it is harder for me to get my ass out of bed in the morning, to stick to my routine, to go to my workouts, to make sure that I am boundaried and preparing myself for this next season of my life. And it was really fucking hard for me to do when I first got here because I was so energetically depleted. And I needed that time to just like kind of throw in the towel and say, like, listen, guys, you can't be on my ass right now. I need to sleep. I need to just be here. I need to like play some rounds of Mahjong with you guys. I need to just like be present. But now that I have that energetic capacity to give and show up for me in my life again, I just think, and I know that a lot of people will be able to relate to this when you're living in a city with people and you're surrounded by people, whether it's New York, Austin, Miami, LA, people who are fucking motivated and are going after their dreams. It is a lot easier to coincide, or I don't know if coincide is the right word, but like to feel that level of relatability with people, to be intrinsically motivated because you're surrounded by that. When you're in fucking suburbia with your retired parents who, they don't need to build out their dream life. They've been there, done that. So it's a different level of energy that I've had to harness within myself. And again, finding the balance between like, okay, yes, this is a season of nourishment and simplicity and to ground down and to build those roots for where I'm going next. Not like actually building roots in North Carolina, but like building personal roots, but also understanding, okay, there's like this new level of energy that I need to tap into because everything around me is so different. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, 1,000%. I think, yeah, no, it just does, because at the end of the day, it's just like honestly it comes back to even probably the beginning of our conversation of it really just being that we're people who are so multifaceted and that we do just go through all of these different seasons of life where I don't know, something that's always helpful for me, like when you're explaining something like this, is just a knowing that you're never going to just be stuck. Like there are seasons that really just are going to be annoying and give like you where you need to think through things that in depth of like the difference of living with my parents and what it would be like if I was with friends and being able to do this extraction of the inner things from your depths and like all of that. And it's so beautiful and amazing. And the people who get it, get it. Like you need that even when it sucks. And then just being able to know that like it's for a reason and you're trying to get to this next level where you'll be able to like be around those people who have more of that drive and that ambition. And like, you know what, I got to try on this hat while I was in Raleigh. And you know what? It's maybe not for me, but maybe it gave me a little sense of color of like, okay, maybe I could settle down and ground a little bit more. You know, like
Mm-hmm.
whatever you're sort of getting from it is just so great, but it's so much easier said than done. And always so much easier to say in hindsight too, because you're like,
Totally.
I need to get out.
Yeah, you guys, I think one of the first things that I said to Jordyn when we were alone, I was like, do you also feel like the hottest, coolest bitch here? Is it just me? And I was being so serious. Like anywhere that I go, the gym, a workout class, out to coffee, I'm like, I am the hottest, coolest bitch here. And it's definitely not in how I look. It's has everything to do with the energy because I just know that I'm meant for more than being here.
Yeah.
It's just this knowing.
Well, right. Yeah.
But yeah, this idea that yes, you're never stuck in whatever
Yeah.
situation you are in, whether it's living with your parents or you're changing your career or you are navigating out of a relationship. Like I was even talking with my therapist earlier this week about like fundamentally, my brother had asked me like, "Are you happy?" And I was like, like in the grand scheme of things, I don't know. And I think that's okay. Like, I find happiness and joy in pockets of like my morning coffee and my rituals and going to my workout class. But am I living my best fucking life here? No. Like, no. Like, on every level, it's a no. But also not seeing that as I'm incomplete. There are these things I'm longing for. I'm like, oh, babe, it's around the corner. Like, that's what the season is for. I'm in preparation mode, and that's okay for me to not have it all right now. And I think especially in spirituality and personal development, there's just this weird connotation around like you always have to be whole, you always have to be complete. And I'm like, yeah, no, life doesn't work like that. We go through so many stages and phases of our life where you're like, this shit is fucking annoying and it sucks and it is uncomfortable and I'm unhappy. Like I am so grateful for this season that I'm in. It's been really nice to be able to have the slowness, be around family. Today I was making blintzes with my Jewish grandmother. And like I actually, for me, I have to mentally kind of like force myself to do these things because I am so used to just living alone in a city where there's no family around me and I don't have these opportunities. So I have to tell myself, Rebecca, it's not a waste of time to go over to your grandmother's house and spend a few hours with her. Do I need to live the rest of my life being 10 minutes away from her? I don't think that's going to be the case for me.
Right.
I don't like that that's not the case for me. So
Yeah.
being here, also one of the many lessons that I've learned about myself and about my journey is that yeah, I have these opportunities right in front of me. And these opportunities to spend time with family, to move at a slower pace, to prepare is going to look very different 6 months from now. My life is going to look so different. So really leaning into that and knowing that you don't need to have it all. It's okay. It's okay.
Totally. And I feel like you're just preparing too for a season where you're able to bring, like, clearly there is that sense of still a craving of being able to expand your circle and, you know, even forging more of those relationships with your family, even if it doesn't have to be all the time, or then expanding with the friendships. Like, I definitely felt that way after my time in Raleigh was much more of a, I had this sort of recognition of, I've done the things that I can do alone. Like, there will, of course, be another season of my life. And I mean, still, I spend plenty of time alone. But it being like, I've done so much by myself and I've been this, I guess, like warrior for myself. And I was like, I know that where I'm going next, it's going to need to be where I'm open to a sense of community and relationship and being able to have like partnership and people around me and allowing them to be like let in into my life. And I think that, I needed that time of the hibernation beforehand to one, be able to recognize it, and then two, also be really ready for that. Like I've almost overdone the solo time to be like, okay, we now need that. And I think that kind of comes with like the work in general. I think it's like how we were saying before too. It's like you do it all to then allow it to go into your actual life. Like let the 5D come into the 3D eventually. Like you can't stay stuck. Like we're supposed to experience this planet, live it, be there. But like I spent basically all these like 8 years being like there's something I've got to figure out solo. Like there's just something. And not to say I was alone the whole time, like I had friends and family and all the things, but there was this sense of like I needed that hibernation on overdrive. And I think that this next book, chapter, era, whatever it is for me, is much more about me being back for real, like amongst people and feeling like
Mm.
I'm seen and heard, in this like even who this more confident and assured version of myself too, because I think that also has the layers to it too of like who you're around and being able to like let those people in who could match your energy.
And recognizing when you're navigating that shift, because I too have very much so felt like a lone wolf. We've talked about this a lot, like lone wolf energy, very independent, do my own thing. Of course, I've had amazing friends and family and all that, but so much of my journey has felt like Rebecca against everyone and everything else. So if you are also navigating that transition of fundamentally honoring and acknowledging, like, one, I don't want to be living like this anymore, but maybe like, that little sand timer thing, like, okay, there's no more sand and the time is up. I think that's what you have been navigating through. That's definitely what I navigated through. And moving out of Austin, I was just like, I'm done doing life alone. But I will say, in being here, my comfort zone is doing things alone. So it's been very nice, but also so effing uncomfortable. Like, if I'm going to be honest, like, again, like that mental battle that I have within myself of like, do I spend time with my parents or do I like work on something of my own behind the scenes? And finding the balance and finding what are my boundaries and understanding and acknowledging that that is one of the many reasons why I was brought here. Again, like it's so much more than just the ease, like, not having to go through financial stress. It's like there are so many other things, so many other maybe not problems necessarily, but like there are areas in your life where your soul is wanting solutions. And I know for me, my soul is like, I want to learn how to be more of a partner in so many aspects of my life. And we've talked about this a lot. Like, how am I creating the energetic space in my life to call in a partner? Okay, I'm learning, like, I don't need to do all of these things alone. I can carve out time for my family. I can carve out time to make new friends here, even if I know that this is not going to be the final destination.
Yeah. And I think it's that sense of trust in yourself of knowing that there is that season for the solo time. Because I think then sometimes people are like, oh, okay, like, but this is too much time alone. I gotta cut it off. Or especially like outside judgment of being like, you should get out more or do XYZ and all that. And it's like, no, it will run its course precisely when it's supposed to. And, you can't rush it. There's and this is like to not, I don't know, it's so hard to explain. Like, it's not that you don't do anything, but there's this layer, it just
Yep,
is.
I know.
It just is. But eventually you're sort of like, okay, but I guess it's kind of like whatever's at the focal point of your energy right now. Like, the focal point might be your energy of the solitude, but like knowing that that will start to shift once you're cracking down into the points that you're supposed to learn, and knowing that it will shift where being amongst people and having that be your, you know, foundation becomes a new season at the same time. And I feel like it
Yeah.
goes for like introverts or extroverts too, because I just think it's kind of like the flows of where you're at in life too, you know?
Yeah, 100%. Like, as we've mentioned, every stage and phase of your journey is going to look so different. When I first moved here, my mom was like, "Who can I set you up with? And I want you to meet this person. I want you." And I was like, "No, no, no. I don't want to meet anyone. Like, I want to just like be by myself and hang out with you guys." And I know that you felt the same way too. The first time that we went to dinner, we were both like, "Yeah, we were just hanging out with our parents." And then we realized, yeah, this is not enough for me.
Right.
Like that was definitely my time in the beginning. And as I've spent 4 months here, and now I'm like, okay, I went through that phase and that was fine. But I now know that it's nice to have a few people in my corner here. I don't need to build an entirely new life here because that was never my goal in being here. A lot of my friends were like, well, what if you meet your husband and what if this? I'm like, yeah, that ain't gonna happen because like I have no, especially now living here for a few months, no desire to stay here for the long term. And I respect my choice and I respect, of course, my wants and desires, but also understanding that, yes, I can still immerse myself while I'm here and not be so like, oh, I'm just like in my little space, like meditating and journaling. And, it's just, again, it's so
Right.
easy to get caught up in that.
Well, but that's also even to the point too of being able to just trust that it will come about then when it's supposed to, because that's then when our mom set us up. I
Mm-hmm.
was, so also for context, I was in New York for like a month or so. So we had to even wait to meet until after then. So it was like it was brewing in the background, but it really was that sense again of trust that it needed to happen at that point when we then met because you were then actually ready for it. And it wasn't going to maybe be one of those other people who your mom was trying to set you up with before, but there was something that still had that pull and that call of like we should meet specifically. And that's
Mm-hmm.
what the trust is of it being like it's going to happen at the right time, letting that space breathe and let it come through, and then also choosing to act on something if you think that it could have some potential. And that's what it comes down to with like kind of everything, honestly. But yeah, it just was supposed to then be that you had all that time, like really just so uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Anybody, like,
Yeah.
you know,
And that's the
stand
beauty
out.
of when you're in these uncomfortable spaces in your life, whether it's I'm in a job that I don't want to be in. I'm living with my parents. Like when you've done so much inner work, like the both of us have, I know how to trust myself and I know how to trust what I am feeling and thinking above what anyone else says. So I could have easily been like, yeah, let me put myself out there and do this. But I was like, it ain't time yet. It ain't time, mom. Let me just be a fucking loner. Like my brothers would be like, so I heard you have no friends. And I'm like, oh my God. Like, I really just don't give a shit what my parents what they tell you. Let me just live my life. And yeah, you came into my life at the perfect time. Like you truly helped me close out my Austin chapter. I know that God specifically put you in my life for a reason beyond just like our connection and us being friends. Like you really helped me tie everything up with a bow, which I'm so grateful for. Meeting you allowed me to heal and grieve Austin, which I needed. Like, again, like, there's a reason why we met. There's a reason why it was the time that it was for me to be able to close that chapter in order for me to truly start preparing for my next chapter and just trusting in that inner knowing. Again, like when it's very easy to get so wrapped up in like the work is never ending and I always need to do more, but it gets to a point where you're like, okay, sure, there's always more work to be done. Like of course, that's what this journey of life is about, but also you get to this point where you're like, yeah, I trust me over anyone else, and that's really fucking powerful.
Yeah, and I feel like because you came into my life, I feel as a lot of the confirmation to know that when I'm speaking on these things, that you were such a soundboard and certain things that I wouldn't ever really want to talk to friends about because I'd be knowing that there was a different perspective in the world about, especially I feel like relationships was a big part that we've touched on, you and I, where it's like, oh, like I felt comfortable enough to open up about something and I got the answer from you that I would give to somebody else. And I was like, because you can't always give yourself the sense of reassurance, of course. And the fact that you gave me that satisfaction, or like, I mean, satisfaction is maybe not the right word, but it being like it was such sound advice that I knew was knowledgeable, I was like, okay, wow. Like there's somebody who gets this, somebody who could also I could lean on and have that sense of comfort in knowing like this can happen within a friendship. And just like, I don't know, more I mean, probably just more of like that sense of knowing, and
Hmm.
it makes you feel like that much more confident and comfortable in what you already know and who you are. And having those moments when you can see that in somebody else, where it kind of just like nails in who you are deeper, is so powerful because always comes back to that everybody in your life is a mirror. So it's either like, are you seeing a reflection of something that you want to keep embodying? Or are you seeing something where you're like, I do not want that anymore? And you were so somebody where I was like, okay, wow, we both have these really similar perspectives on things, but we're also just living our own lives. And it's really cool to see how that unravels for somebody else because you're always learning something that like I'm going to need. I'm learning something that you're going to need. And having that reciprocity is just gorgeous. We love it.
Yeah, to your point about relationships, I have realized in being here so much of what I was manifesting in the past or wanting were specific, like tangible things. And I've learned over time that so much of my clarity, so much confirmation for me and my path and where I'm going to next has come through God just like dropping in the right people in my life.
Yep.
And as a girly who has a lot of Libra placements, I'm a Libra North Node. I have had to learn so many hard and uncomfortable lessons around like balance and just like the beauty of relationships with the other. And I'm like, oh my God, everything actually does come to me through people. Not
Yeah.
to say that like I haven't gotten these amazing opportunities, you know what I'm saying? Just like to your point of every relationship in your life, whether it be platonic, romantic, friendship, whatever, is a mirror. Like, you know, so much of what you brought to me in my life was also confirmation and clarity in myself. And it wasn't like, oh my God, I landed this like dream opportunity. It was like, nope, just like Jordyn was plopped into my life.
Well, and
God.
that's that reinforcement again for the people listening. Like, I love to think of things of what are the patterns that happen in
Hmm.
the world. And it's again that hibernating of needing to do the deeper inner work that it then once you go out into the world, it's crazy how much somebody will just then mirror back to you what you just learned, but you had to learn it first by yourself. That happens to me all the time. Like even I learn something on my own and then I open TikTok and it's there. I did not research it. I did not do absolutely anything. And then it's just in my algorithm of someone talking about this advice of something very specific that I'm going through. And that's just how it works. So freaky, but it really just, I have so much evidence of that. It's crazy. So, yeah.
Well, I think we should end that there because
Yeah.
just
Life is a mirror. Life is a
yeah.
mirror, everybody. If you took one thing away,
Can you guys tell that we love this? We love this work so much we could just talk about it all day, every day, which we do. You guys
we
should
do.
you should hear our voice
We voice
note.
note. I'm like, Rebecca, 15-minute voice memo. I don't have the time. But I'm also so engulfed. I need to know everything you're saying.
I can't shut up. It's just who I am. I have friends who've been like, it's a 6 minute voice note. And they're like, this is really overwhelming. I'm like, 6 minutes? Like, I'm just getting started. Are you? But that's
just the intro.
No, literally, that's just the intro. Like, buckle up, bitches. Anyways, that's the beauty of having a podcast. Well, this has been so fun. You guys probably know this from listening to this episode, but Jordyn is amazing, and it's just been such a joy. Not to like play on my own name, Rebecca Joy over here, but it truly has been such a joy getting to know you, getting to cross paths with you, getting to learn more about you and your journey. And it's just been so fun to have this space to be able to share more about all the things that we've talked about in private. I think that's the beauty of like my Mars and Scorpio, your Scorpio rising. Like, we just go into the depths in our private conversations, but being able to open that up to other listeners is truly just so powerful. And I think we touched upon so many things that so many listeners need to hear.
Yeah, I really hope that it resonates. I think that's such a big point of being able to go through the depths and the transformation is that it happens for each of us, but then being able to actually give that back and hopefully help somebody else on their journey. Like the whole, of course, people are mirrors. It's like I learned so much from being able to listen to stuff like this and just again getting that confirmation that I'm not crazy, that this knowledge is really just so special and is really needed. And just getting to have like virtual friends in this kind of way. I mean, for anyone who's listening, but then also between you and I, like, I'm so happy that we've now met and have gotten this experience and now get to do a podcast like this. I just think that having much more of that is so special. And however you could get it is key. So, overall, just to say thank you for having me. I'm so honored to be here. And then we got to have this conversation. And I'll probably be sending you a voice memo after this.
Oh, of course. Always the continuous voice memos. Well, I'm going to end this here. You have been so great. Thank you for being on. And we'll obviously need to have you back because we could talk about a million things.
Thank you for listening to today's episode with me and Jordyn. I would appreciate it so much if you not only commented on what you found most useful throughout the episode, you liked the podcast on Spotify or Apple, because ratings truly do mean so much. And I'm trying to get discovered in 2026, so that would help out you girl so much. But I would just love if you could share this podcast with someone in your life that you think could benefit from it. As you know, we got so real and we got so deep, and I just know that there are so many others in this same position as we both have been in, and it's a hard position to be in. So if you can find another person to act as your sounding board or just hear about someone else's experience, it truly can go such a long way. So thank you for all of your love and support in advance. Also, stay tuned because we have one more end of the year podcast episode coming soon. Of course, I couldn't leave you hanging on wrapping up 2025 before we enter 2026. So stay tuned for that, and make sure that you are subscribed to my Substack. We've got a few juicy posts coming for the end of the year and lots of good stuff. Lots of good stuff coming in 2026. I am already just ready to be there. My soul is ready to be in 2026, but we are going to end the year on such a high note. So with all that being said, ending this here, thank you, thank you, thank you. I love you. I appreciate you. Stay tuned for the next episode. Bye.